Welcome, everyone. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today for this explainer session. We're going to dive deep into the fascinating world of descriptive statistics. आज हम focus करेंगे on transforming structured categorical data into crystal clear insights. Imagine taking raw, messy data and watching it turn into something visually and mathematically beautiful right before your eyes. Chaliye, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today's class. Number 1, recap and categorical data. 2, manual frequency distribution. 3, pivot tables and Google Sheets. 4, the dataset comparison problem. 5, understanding relative frequency. And 6, summary and key takeaways. Let's get started. Section 1, recap and categorical data. First, let's briefly anchor ourselves. आज हम purely structured data पर focus कर रहे हैं, specifically analyzing single categorical variables. This means our data falls into distinct, clear groups. Think blood types, car colors, or letter grades. Section 2, manual frequency distribution. तो चलिए देखते हैं step 1. Imagine we're standing right in front of a giant digital whiteboard. Because before we let software do all the heavy lifting, हमें core math समझना होगा. So what exactly is a frequency distribution? Honestly, don't let the technical term intimidate you. Frequency is literally just a fancy statistical word for count. बस इतना ही. A frequency distribution एक simple list होती है distinct categories की, right alongside exactly how many times each category appears in our data. Watch this visual transformation from raw input to structured output. Let's say we have a data set of alphabets. Step 1, we list our distinct values in the first column, A, B, C, and D. Step 2, जैसे raw data आता है, we place a vertical tally mark for each observation. Finally, we just count those tallies up to get a final numeric count. A gets 4, B gets 2, and so on. Simple, right? Now you might be wondering, what if our dataset grows from 10 observations to 15 observations? Well, the process is exactly the same. The only little visual trick is once you hit 4 vertical tally marks, एक diagonal line से उन्हें cross out करते हैं to make a block of 5. This makes counting large data sets visually identical and lightning fast. Section 3, pivot tables in Google Sheets. Now that we've mastered the manual whiteboard logic, it's time to shift gears. Let's step into our digital lab और देखते हैं software real world में इसको कैसे automate करता है. In Google Sheets, this entire tallying process is automated using a pivot table. Think of this as a super smooth input to process to output flow. Just follow along. First, highlight your data cells. Next, ऊपर data menu पर click करें and select pivot table. Finally, simply add your category to rows and add it again to values. Done in seconds. Let's look at a real-world hospital dataset tracking blood groups. Notice the beautiful instant output Google Sheets gives us here? It perfectly lists the distinct categories, A, B, AB, O, along with their exact frequencies. And check out the bottom. We get a perfect grand total of 30. कोई manual tallying की ज़रूरत नहीं. Section 4, the dataset comparison problem. Now, I want to pause our tutorial for a second to introduce a really fascinating real-world dilemma जो data scientists हर रोज़ face करते हैं. सोचिए इसके बारे में. If you are comparing 2 different hospitals or 2 different surveys, they are almost never going to have the exact same number of participants. So how can you possibly make a fair judgment when the grand totals just don't match? Let me show you exactly why this is a problem visually. We have dataset 1 with a total of 10 observations, where category A was counted 4 times. Then dataset 2 has a total of 15 observations, and category A was counted 6 times. If you just look at the raw counts, 6 is obviously bigger than 4. You might instantly think category A is more dominant in dataset 2. लेकिन ये completely misleading है, because the total observation pools, 10 versus 15, are entirely different. You are quite literally comparing apples and oranges here. Section 5, understanding relative frequency. So how do we fix this? We need a way to level the playing field. Let me introduce you to our great mathematical equalizer, relative frequency. The definition is brilliantly straightforward. Relative frequency is simply each specific count divided by the grand total. This elegantly shrinks everything down to a standard decimal number between 0 and 1. Let's walk through the math for our first data set of 10 items. Category A has a frequency of 4. We divide 4 by the total of 10, which gives us a relative frequency of 0.4. For category B, 2 divided by 10 is 0.2. We do the exact same for C and D. And अगर आप ध्यान से देखें, if you add up point 4, point 2, point 2, and point 2, they sum up perfectly to exactly 1. Every single time, the sum of all relative frequencies must equal 1. This concept is visually unforgettable when you picture it as a donut chart. The total data is the whole pie, representing the number 1. The relative frequencies act just like slices, snapping together to form that complete whole. Category A takes up 40% of the pie. It doesn't matter how big the actual pie is in real life. हम सिर्फ उस slice का proportion देख रहे हैं. Now let's bring back our comparison problem. ये है हमारा magical aha moment. Dataset 1 had 4 out of 10. Dataset 2 had 6 out of 15. When we calculate the relative frequency, both give us exactly 0.4. Even though those raw counts of 4 and 6 looked so different, the relative frequencies for both datasets are identical, proving that proportionally they are bilkul same. Let's quickly connect this back to our digital lab. In Google Sheets, you just create a simple new column, type a simple division formula, click your frequency cell, divide it by the grand total, and hit enter. Then just drag that formula down the column. Instantly, आपके पास एक perfectly standardized relative frequency table ready है. Section 6. Summary and Key Takeaways. We've covered some incredibly powerful ground today. Let's wrap up this lecture by transitioning to our final mental mind map. Today, we unlocked 3 core skills. First, the foundational math behind manual frequency tables using tally marks. Second, automating that exact process using Google Sheets pivot tables. And third, relative frequency, the ultimate tool for standardizing data that can fair, accurate comparisons कर सके. Remember, this isn't just theory. It's the exact framework data scientists use to make sense of the real world. So I'll leave you with this thought. What hidden patterns will you discover when you apply relative frequency to your next messy dataset? Grab some data, fire up a spreadsheet, and confidently find out. Thanks for joining me in today's class, and I'll catch you in the next one.